We've been walking through the Reforge-Elmer framework: emotion, logic, motivation, and reward. We started with emotion and how every decision and action is fueled by an emotion that stems from the gain or loss of a core desire. We then use logic in order to justify that emotion, and then we need enough motivation or ability to get over the steepness of the decision hill. But let's talk a little bit about that fourth step. Once we get a user over the decision hill, once they take the action, well, what do we need to do here? Well, what we need to do is we need to reward them, because the reward is the confirmation that we made a good decision. The higher the reward, the increased chance a user will repeat an action and or complete the next action we want them to do. There's three different categories or types of rewards. The first are extrinsic rewards. Think about time, so the reminder of how much time you've saved. Money, such as getting a gift card or some sort of financial incentive after doing some action, or information, like getting a template after subscribing to an email list. We can see this in action in a tool such as Zapier, which sends out weekly emails reminding you of how much time you've saved by using their products and how much you've automated by setting up the different zaps. The second category or types of rewards are intrinsic rewards, things like completion, like reaching inbox 0, mastery, like reaching a new level in a game, or joy, such as pleasant surprises within a product. You could think about this in a Zynga game, like leveling up and getting that intrinsic reward as you do so. Or even something as simple as in the Help Scout product, when I reach inbox 0 on all of my customer support ticket, the message of cheers, you did it, now it's time to treat yourself. The third category or type of reward are social rewards, things that stem from different social interactions, things like recognition, confirmation, or even competition. We can think about this in the context of a product like Yelp and leaving a review on a restaurant. We get social rewards from other people telling us that the review was useful, funny, or even cool. We could also get a social message of "you're all done" from our inbox completion, or even a social message from a product like MailChimp kind of high-fiving you as you've sent out your campaign. There's a couple things to know about rewards. The first is that the effect of a reward decreases with repeated exposure. So we can visualize this on a very simple graph. What you see here on the y-axis is the effect that the reward has from low to high, and on the x-axis, the number of times we've been exposed to that reward. What we see here is that the first time that we receive the reward, it has the highest effect. But the second time, third time, and fourth time, the effect of the reward decreases every single time. We can think about this in the context of that very simple MailChimp high five that we get after sending an email campaign. Well, it's likely that the first time I receive that, I have the reaction of, "Oh wow, this is so cool and fun. It has a really good effect." But the second time I get it, it's a little bit more expected, and you get the reaction of, "Oh yeah, I love this when I send a campaign, but it's not as impactful as the first time I got it." And then the third time you get it, by that point, you're like, "Okay, I get it. I'm going to get this every time I send an email campaign." So what we need to do is that we need to make sure that we reward the user enough until the organic habit takes a hold. So if the reward isn't high enough on that first action, what do we do in order to maintain that effect until the user establishes that organic habit? Well, the first is that we could increase the amount of the reward with every single exposure. We could think about this in like an incentivized referral campaign where the reward of the incentive increases with every additional friend that I invite. The second thing that we could do is do something like adding variability, which increases the dopamine or feeling of the reward with each exposure. So in other words, I don't know the amount of the reward that I'm going to get or the type of reward that I'm going to get, and it's varied up every single time. And so that surprise releases additional dopamine and maintains the effectiveness of that reward. We can see this variability in action in a product such as Grubhub. Every time you place an order, you get to place a game called Yummy Rummy, where you get a random card and you might get free food or other incentives based on what you get from the cards. We could also think about this in the context of that MailChimp high five. How would we add variability to a reward such as this? Well, maybe instead of having the monkey give you a high five every time, we vary it up, and sometimes you get a fist bump or a monkey wearing a party hat. Whatever it might be, right, that variability or that surprise maintains the effect of that reward over time until the user establishes the organic habit on their own. So that's reward, the fourth part of the Reforge Elmer framework. We've gone through each part: emotion, logic, motivation, and reward. It really helps us understand and think about in a structured way, well, how do our users actually make decisions? We learned that emotion is the first step of decision making, and it stems from the gain or loss of a core desire. We then learned that logic helps us solidify and justify that emotion, but we need to be careful because the logical brain is lazy, easily depleted, and gets overwhelmed. The third thing is that motivation gets us to complete the action, gets us over the decision hill. And so motivation is a combination just not of how much motivational fuel I have, but we need to compare it to the ability or the amount of ability that is required in order to complete the action. And then the fourth thing is that the reward confirms that we've made the right decision after we've completed the action, which helps increase the chances we're going to continue with more actions or do that action on a repeated basis. In the next section, we want to start to translate some of these principles and concepts into something that's a little bit more concrete, something that we call the psych framework.